All right, Advanced Path Sentinel. So Sentinels are the defensive adept pathway. So if you noticed for Rogue and for Adept, there are both a offensive version and defensive version of the given fighting pool. So Sentinel is the defensive one for Adept, and they are very unique. They focus around uh, Fortress, Impenetrable Fortress, which is a Adept skill. Which I guess we should probably go cover that real quick. Uh, Impenetrable Fortress. This skill requires you to plant both feet. If either of your feet move, the skill effect ends. During that time while your feet are planted, you can auto parry blows directed at you, specifically only you, without spending adept points as long as both feet remain planted. So this is very similar to Cornered Rat uh, in Rogue, which allows you to dodge infinite amount of times as long as you don't fight and your foot is in a specific spot. As long as your foot is in a corner. So this is Impenetrable Fortress. This is the equivalent on the adept side of the fighting pools. Upon initiating the skill, if another person has their own foot touching your foot and is facing the same direction, they too may auto parry blows directed at them with no cost per use as long as their feet remain planted and one in contact with yours. You may only support up to one person on each side of you with the skill, and only if they are planted in contact with your foe when you initiate the skill. It is not possible to auto parry for others with no cost using this ability. So, this means that if you have a buddy on your right and a buddy on your left, and you guys match, like you put your feet next to each other on the given respective foot, and you all plant your feet, and then the user calls Impenetrable Fortress, you now have a line of 3 people who are auto parrying for free. Let's see. There's no text here that says that you can't attack while you are also in an impenetrable fortress, which means that your offensive capabilities aren't stopped, which I think is the unique thing about Adept, because the Cornered Rat specifically says you can only do dodges and that you can't attack. Uh, just as long as both of your feet remain planted, you can auto parry. There's no other uh requirement for this, so sweet. So this specifically, this is 10 adept, and you get to auto parry for exclusively yourself, and you can have up to a buddy on each side of you. Okay, so you can have up to 3 people. It's important because this pathway is going to get a unique version of this skill. So we'll go to Sentinel. That you just need to know how that works. The only requirement for Advanced Path Sentinel is just that you're an adept, which is sick. A Sentinel prides themselves on their unwavering defense and unequaled courage. There is no better place for a Sentinel than the front lines, and nowhere else they'd rather be. While they may not be responsible for defeating a foe, they are paramount in survival against one. Rarely, if ever, will you spot a Sentinel without a shield. Often cited as the key to their defense, Sentinels will fortify themselves behind one. If there is no front line, they will become one. So because you're the defensive adept user, you're typically going to have a shield, and part of your skill is stalwart shield. You get a unique shield. So we'll go right into the skills here. Similar to the other 4 fighting pool pathways, you have concentration, defense, adept. Okay, you have a concentration in defense. Reduce the cost of all defensive weapon mastery and adept skills by 1. Weapon mastery skills cannot be reduced below 1. So you can reduce weapon mastery to a minimum of 1, and you can reduce adept skills to a minimum of half rounded up of the cost of the skill. So your auto parry, which is 5, is now reduced to 1, or sorry, is now reduced to 4. And then if you had another way to reduce it, you could reduce it to 3, but half of 5 rounded up is 3. So you can't get it lower than 3. But that doesn't apply to weapon mastery, so you can get all of your this applies to all your weapon mastery parries are reduced down by 1, which is sweet. In contrast, all of your offensive skills, so this means Dance of the Adept, Vorpal Slay, Regular Slay, and and all offensive knavery and rogue, so that means your waylay and your snake's revenge are also increased by 1. Okay, so all of your, no matter what, if it's fighting, no matter if it's knavery or rogue or adept, all of your offensive stuff costs 1 more for fighting skills. Okay. Uh, so this is the defensive adept one. It's going to have the defensive trade-off, which is you're better at defense, but you're worse at offense, right? It's pretty typical across Blackguard, Bodyguard, and Dervish. So we've talked about concentrations a lot and how they're really good. Getting an adept reduction is amazing. Sentinel, Stalwart Shield. Sentinel is better at defending with their shield. While wielding a shield in hand, they are immune to all trip effects while their feet are planted. So if you're like moving and you get hit with a trip effect, then you still take the trip, but you're immune to trip while your feet are planted, which is important. Because the way that you get somebody out of a traditional fortress, the one that we just covered over here, is you hit them with a trip spell. Because they may only auto parry. They may not magic parry for free, which is very unique. So that you can throw magic spells at them basically. Uh, So yeah, being immune to trips, regardless of how it is, regardless of if it's an unnatural trip or a physical trip or a magic trip, uh, doesn't matter. Shield is also considered undisarmable and may be used to block massive regardless of strength. So that's really strong. An undisarmable shield, which is sweet, and may be used to block massive is awesome. In addition, Ritual Parry, which is a future skill, is reduced to 10 while you are in an impenetrable fortress or a sentinel's fortress, and may be used on rituals that strike the sentinel anywhere in the frontal arc. Okay, important to know. We'll get back to this in a second. Parry Mastery. Sentinel can parry and auto parry for 1 less. Auto parry and magic parry are reduced by 1. This doesn't reduce weapon mastery parries, okay? It's exclusively the adept parries. Which means that you're doing magic parry and auto parry for 3, which is the best ratio you can do them at. Nobody can do auto parry and magic parry for less than 3. Okay, so you're just immediately you're doing them for 3, which is awesome. Okay, really good skill. It's interesting that this doesn't reduce the parries for weapon mastery, but that's probably for a reason, I would assume. And then ritual parry cost is 20 adept here. Okay. Prerequisite, parry master Sentinel may call ritual parry to any ritual that strikes the shield. Okay. Now, with Stalwart Shield earlier, we saw while you're in a fortress, you can ritual parry for 10, so instead you're halving the cost of this skill. And you can use it on rituals that strike anywhere in the frontal arc. So if it's a throne ritual, if it's a ritual strike, if it's etc., when you're in a fortress, an impenetrable fortress or the Sentinel's fortress, when you're in a fortress, you can ritual parry for 10 against anything. When you're not in a fortress, when a ritual hits only your shield, you can call for 20 to do it. So it's you got to understand the nuance there that it's really you're wanting to use it when you're in the fortress, because another way that you get people out of fortresses is you freaking throw rituals at them. All right. Now this is going to get pretty nuts. This is a really good skill. Mobile Fortress. Sentinel may take 1 step in any direction while maintaining an impenetrable fortress. To use the skill, you call advance for each step taken. Cost to use for this skill is 1 adept per step. I have some memories of when I first started playing, when we were in a tavern, and there was a ton of like NPCs outside that were all zombies, and it was basically a siege on the tavern. And so we had a line of people just inside the tavern, just inside the door, with a fortress, and it was like a multi-hour fight where these people were in a fortress, and we had a sentinel there, and when things got hairy, he paid an adept to like move himself forward, and then the other sentence here is that you can pay additional 1 adept for each person in line with you. They must immediately, like, yep, and of course they don't expect that you're able to move your feet in perfect unison. So as long as you just immediately go to put your feet back with them, you can take a step with them. So you're in a traditional fortress, you're paying 3 adept for everybody, for you, your buddy on your right, and your buddy on your left to just take a step forward, which is nuts. Being able to auto parry for free and move for a 1 adept per step is really good. It's really, really, really good. Being able to permanently move, like being able to move while you're in a fortress is nuts. Okay, like this is so good, and it's just you're not gonna see how good it is until somebody does it in front of you, and then you're gonna be like, wow, that's amazing. So crazy good skill. Um, this isn't in my theoretical top 10 skills list, but it's like it's like 11 or 12. Like it's really fighting to be up there. This is a very good skill. It's just that you don't see fortresses all the time per se. You see it maybe once or twice a game essentially. It's really good when there's like big wave fights with like sieges and stuff, which happens. And I honestly really enjoy those types of fights. Vigilance. Sentinel may for 3 weapon mastery. This is not adept. For 3 weapon mastery, you can resist waylay effects. You can call resist to any waylay effect for 3 weapon mastery. So waylay is 2 or 3, I think, and you get to just have a resist to waylay. So this is specifically you're getting to auto parry, and if you fundamentally understand auto parry, the skill, it means that you can only auto parry in front of you. Waylay is things that hit you in the back. Okay, so you're getting to resist waylay for 3 weapon mastery. Okay, for lower, which is really neat, and it like because if somebody snakes revenges and then they get to swing waylay while they're in front of you, mechanically they are still hitting you in the back, which means you cannot auto parry those. So if somebody goes snake's revenge when you go fortress, they go snake's revenge, and they hit you for like 3 waylay, you're only paying weapon mastery to do that. You don't have to dump your adept to be able to defend yourself. It's a unique skill, and it's definitely like I would say. I mean, most people would love to have a flat waylay resist, but most people just have knavery and they get a just basic deflect for 1 against like a waylay. But this is assuming that you're like an adept special, like you really went hard down adept. And being able to resist waylay for weapon mastery is really good. Like your main downside is that like somebody snakes revenges, and this is a defense against snake revenge. Okay, Sentinel's Fortress. It's Sentinel can enter into a fortress, allowing them to auto parry for free. Okay, so there's the adept skill, Impenetrable Fortress, and then when you're on the advanced path, you can learn the skill Sentinel's Fortress. Now, regular Impenetrable Fortress only costs 10 adept. Sentinel's Fortress costs 20 adept. Okay, we're gonna go over why. This skill requires you to plant both feet. If either of your feet move, the skill effect ends. During that time, you can auto parry blows directed at yourself and others within weapon's reach without spending adept points as long as both feet remain planted. This ability will function for the Sentinel himself. Okay, so your Sentinel Fortress is better because you can auto parry for other people, which means and it's like your full 180 effect, like in front of you, you can auto parry for instead of just whatever hits you. So specifically, your your regular fortress is good because every time they attack you, you can defend yourself. Okay, this fortress allows you to cover an entire area with free auto parries. So you could literally, so if theoretically in a fight, right? Your Sentinel, while you might think they would be like on the front line, if you have like 3 fighters who are in the front line and they're all kind of in front of you, and you have like a relatively big longsword and shield, right? You can Sentinel's Fortress behind them, like literally like right behind them, like their backs are up against you, assuming that you have consensual like range and physical space, right? Um, and they can just and you don't have to now because it's all the attacks land in front of you. Even if they're hitting your buddies in the back, it's still quote unquote in front of you. So your auto parries can happen anywhere in front of you, which means you can cover like 3 to 4 people in front of you with free auto parries. They, regardless of where they land on their body, because wherever they land, it's still in front of you, which means you can auto deflect, you can auto parry it. Okay, so actually with a Sentinel's Fortress, you want to be like one step behind everybody. You don't want to be right on the front line because it allows you to just cover more people. Because if you're, but yeah, uh, and then also you get to reposition yourself by paying 1 adept with Mobile Fortress, because Mobile Fortress also applies to your Sentinel's Fortress, uh, I believe. Uh, so that means that like the guys in the front, they literally don't have to call defenses for any sort of physical weapon blow. So if you the guy in front of you just eats like 10 Vorpal Slays, you just say 10 auto parries. Crazy, actually busted, and you're doing it for like free, which is what justifies the 20 adept cost, is being able to do it for other people. That in and of itself is amazing. Okay, that is the whole path, and then this is the cookie for 10 adept. Hold the line. Sentinel can leave others in their fortress while stepping away. If Sentinel is currently in an impenetrable fortress with other participants, the Sentinel can pay 10 adept for each person in his line, at which point the Sentinel may leave his fortress. For each person the previous cost was paid, they remain in their own impenetrable fortress. So what this skill means is that you essentially can pay for other people to fortress, which is pretty good. So if you're fortressing, if you've set up a fortress, right? Like you're setting, let's say you're in a room with 2 doorways in and out, okay? There's 2 doorways that you got to cover. If you set up an impenetrable fortress and then you have buddy on one door, okay? And then there's no other people with like adept in the room, you can pay 10 for, like, you can leave one buddy at one door and then go set up a fortress and then pay your 10, leave, go set up another fortress at the other door yourself, and now you have both doors covered, and you don't care what that other guy had. So if that other guy was literally just a weapon mastery guy, like he doesn't have adept, like he's a brand new player, he has a fortress. You paid a 10 adept for a brand new person to have a fortress. Okay? That's like what the value of this cookie is. And it's amazing. It's exactly what you want to be doing as a sentinel. You want to be setting up we're here for the siege, and you're not getting past me. This is definitely the you shall not pass of Shifted Lands. Yep, that was Sentinel. Sentinel's sick. It's a very old path. It's one of the oldest pathways that I'm aware of, and it's a very traditional pathway. You're carrying a shield, you're carrying a longsword, and you're just being an ultimate tanky guy that nobody can hit with skills. So it's really good, really strong. I would recommend anybody who goes adept to take a look at Sentinel. It's a really good pathway. It's really sweet. Thank you for your time, and next we'll be going on to Shadow Dancer. Oh boy.